Sarah, thank you so much for coming on to the Starting Story podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on. How are you doing?
I am great and honored to be here, my friend. I'm super excited when I saw this on my calendar today. I was like, yes, I get to deliver
Yeah.
goodness internationally, baby.
Oh my God. Well, this topic, when I came across, I think you emailed me or I contacted you, I can't remember, but this topic is so important. I mean, it's important for me personally. I've started doing networking more, and the more and more I realize I'm doing it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, Sarah, she has it locked. Like, she knows what she's doing. Her system works clearly, and I just need to know more. And it's the same for so many other people. Like, people that are listening are these students, young entrepreneurs, new to the space, and frankly, overwhelmed. And even though networking events are pitched as this amazing idea where you get to finally meet the people in your space, which maybe you don't have in your normal friend group, they can be overwhelming in themselves. Like if you go there and you're talking to a tech startup compared to a business investor compared to anyone else, right? It's hard to keep on top of things, and especially the follow up afterwards and keeping it personalized. Of course, nowadays we have this system where we personalize using AI, but that has its own downfalls where AI pretends to personalize, but it actually turns out coming out as generated slop, which we has probably become the word of the year by 2026. So it's interesting to see that you've merged those two worlds, and I'd love for you to explore that further. But to
Yeah,
start off with, I wanted to ask before we get into any of this world of how you do networking and how exactly you manage to work. Why should someone even do networking? If someone's stuck at that question, should I be doing networking? What's the right time? Why should someone who's starting a business do networking, Sarah?
I think it's important and even deeper outside of even just starting a business. Uh, it can feel super isolating when you're starting a business. You can feel like you're the only one struggling with how do I get IT set up or bookkeeping, or there's so many facets to when you start a business. And when you get out and network and just expand your community, if nothing else, if no business is coming from it, you have people in your corner and you now have people that you can call on and say, hey, have you ever run into this before? Would you mind walking me through this? This starts knowing that like you have camaraderie. Other business owners, my husband is a W-2'd, you know, hourly employee. He goes to work from 9 to 5. He leaves. He never has to pick up his phone after hours. He never has to worry about any of that stuff. They don't, and I say this with a lot of grace, and I love my husband, does not understand what it's like to start a business, to be an entrepreneur, or to even kind of figure out, am I an entrepreneur? I'm still working my 9 to 5, but is it time for me to start my own thing? And you can't understand or learn or get into a mindset if you don't surround yourself with other people that are in the same island mindset or sometimes crap that you're in. So that is
Mm.
first and foremost the number one thing. And if you ever have listened to some of these really successful people, Mel Robbins, all these other people out there that have huge podcasts and, all of these things and deliver all these keynotes, they always say their relationships and their networking is what got them to where they are today. It
Mm.
didn't just happen magically, didn't happen by luck. It happened because they met this person made an introduction for them, and then that kind of kept rolling and rolling and rolling. That's the momentum and the beauty that comes with networking, where not only are you leveraging your own network, but you're now leveraging the people that you like, that you trust, that are business owners and their connections. And that's how that momentum and that ball keeps going.
Wow, yeah. So even if you're thinking of business or even if you're in just like a predicament, then realistically, as we all know, if you're in any problem, the only way you're going to find the solution is off the experiences you have, right? But if you're young, naturally you're going to be less experienced than someone who's 50, 60, whatever years old. So if you do have any problem you're in, business or personal wise, if you network and share it with someone else, they might have an alternative solution you don't know exists, you never considered, and is the perfect right option for you. So yeah, like it doesn't even have to be business related. It's always better to increase the people around you, and it's up to you. Like the option is still you. It's not, no one's forcing you that if you speak to this one person, you have to make them your lifelong friend. That's not the case. Like if you speak to them and you don't like them, okay, then move on. It's fine. But
Yes.
in every 10 people, you might just find that one person which you're like, oh, actually, I would like to keep in touch. And if you didn't go to the networking event or just network in general, even without events, how would you have ever met that person? So it's more of a philosophical way of like, if you want to improve your network and meet new people, then you have to do networking. And I think networking has become like this, almost like a cliche or like a buzzword, which people sometimes refrain from. They're like, oh, I've not got the social skills, or I don't really know what to do. How do I even start? Don't I have to do an elevator pitch if I want to go to a networking event? No, you just need to talk, no matter what level you are. And what will come out of it will probably be better than what went in. Would
And
you agree?
I agree, and I encourage people, as I hear this a lot from introverts, from people that have a lot of social anxiety. When I was writing my book, which we'll get to, I interviewed a bunch of introverts or people that think they are introverts because I
Mm,
wanted to make sure I was capturing all perspectives because I don't have that. I don't struggle from that. I love people. I'm curious about who they are, what they do, the goodness, the hardships, all of the things that come along with them. And if you can go in with curiosity, open mindedness, and just a little bit of vulnerability about yourself, I'm not saying you have to share your entire story if that's not your thing. But I have found some of my introverts are some of the best networkers because their active listening skills far supersede some of my extroverted humans. And so
mm,
a lot of people I spoke with, they get a lot of anxiety before going into an event. Give yourself a quick timeline. I'm going to be here for an hour and I'm going to talk to two new people that I meet, or I'm going to go in and, talk to this X person. And if you've done that and you've accomplished that and you have a next step, or you've realized that person's a yes for me or a no for me, that's a successful time well spent. So don't beat yourself up. And I encourage people to not try to be somebody else. You have tons of magic inside of you, whether introvert, extrovert, ambivert, however it is that you go out and socialize. Make sure you're honoring that and bringing that to the table because that's what's going to attract the people that you want to be around. If you're trying to be somebody else, you're going to attract other people that don't fill your cup up, that drain you
mm,
faster. And then that's where I think networking gets this bad connotation where it's like, oh, well, that person only just sells and this person's not supportive. And that's okay. You're going to come across a variety of people. But that doesn't mean that they're going to get your specific time. And it's unfortunately, I hate using the analogy about dating, but it kind of is that way where we're just out there learning about people, asking questions. And there's different tools that we'll get into later that can help you prepare those questions so you're not like, I don't know what to say, I've frozen, oh God, I've said
mm.
too many times, or like. All of those things are natural and human, guys. We say them when we're public speaking, we say them on a common basis. They don't degrade or bring down anything that you are professionally. They're part of life. And so you just got to keep working through them, and just keep showing up as you because there's a whole lot of magic in it. No matter how much you may not be feeling that magic, you have it inside of you. And when you're willing to share a little bit, it goes a far, far way.
Wow, that's a really cool topic of other episodes I've done as well, which is that you need to be authentic. And just to give like a little snapshot, it is this concept, right, of you have this picture in your mind. Everyone has this picture in their mind of who is the successful extrovert or who is the correct speaker. And so you try to aspire to become like that, which inherently is not a bad thing. But if you're trying to force that onto your character, then you will just attract the wrong people for you because they are coming towards a character you've created, like a fake facade of yourself. And the people who genuinely would have resonated with the real facade of you don't ever find out about it because you kept it hidden. And it's one of those things which is so human to do because we're always at the beginning scared to get our voice out there. Me at the beginning, if you listen to any of my early podcast episodes, they are awful. Even I cringe when I listen to them. I'm thinking that like this is me who used to speak, and I'm there asking and ahhing all the time, and you can tell I was stuck with a question there, so I just put some random BS into the conversation. That's just how the conversation goes. But after talking to people, you start to get more fluent with it. So yeah, it's just one of those things which you don't have to be too scared of. There will probably be benefit for you, and you're always in control. I think it's just like sake of like people think if go into a networking event, I might lose the control, and you won't. You might go there for an hour or two, come back, and you still have the same bed. You can still go and sleep in that. Everything's
Yep.
okay.
You still have your house, you still have your
Yes.
safety of your car, whatever it is that brings you that calmness and
Yeah.
that
Comfort. Yeah.
clarity, by all means, it will be there. And that's kind of like what I tell people in the back of your head. I've got 45 more minutes and I can go home, or I got, 2 more hours and I can go, do yoga or whatever it is that floats your boat. But all of that is really, really important. And one last thing I'll say on this before we move on to one other thing is networking inherently has the word work in the word. And I think we
Hmm.
forget that, right? When we are going to school, college, university, even when we're full blown in our jobs, I don't know about you, but I do continuing education every year for like 40 plus hours every year.
Hmm.
And so that all takes time to learn. It doesn't just come like this, right? If you saw me in the beginning of my networking journey 15 years ago, it looks a heck of a lot different than it does today, right? But it takes work and it takes effort, and it's not something that's just like, yeah, I've got this. And you've got to kind of stumble through or listen to other people that you hear and you're like, wow, I really liked how they said that. How can I put that into how I interact with somebody? That's all part of the learning game. And I encourage you to you have to go through those steps, because if you don't and you keep walking away, it's just going to be a longer time to get you to the other side of it.
Absolutely. That's definitely, I agree with that as well. And ultimately, if you are listening to this podcast, then you're clearly someone who's ambitious and wants to put your foot out there, open doors for yourselves, expand your horizons, and you know that it doesn't come without work. Like if you are on this journey and expect to be successful in business, or at least create something that supports you as a side hustle, whatever it is, you're gonna have to put some effort into it. So you have to give yourself kudos. You're someone who's already decided I'm willing to put the work in to achieve something great in my life. And if one of that work is conversing with more and more people, so be it. Just go out there, show your best self, and just go through it. Because after, if you go to three or four after that, you'll realize actually it's not that bad. And most people at networking events are lovely. When I went to my first, I was like, oh my gosh. Actually, to be fair, when I went to my first networking event, there was one guy who kind of scared me a bit because I probably made the mistake of going to my first networking event after my first podcast interview, because I thought, I'm gonna be the Bravo guy. I've had my first podcast interview. Now I have the kudos to go to an event, right? And I remember I spoke to this guy, and he immediately started lecturing me on like why podcasting is just not the thing nowadays and it's not gonna succeed, and like you missed the wave of podcasting 2 years ago. And I was like, whoa, I don't even know what to say to this. Like, why am I getting? I just told you what I did. I thought I'd get like, well done, like you start your journey, but he started lecturing me. And he was like this big burly guy as well, so that doesn't help the facade either. So I was kind of put off a little bit, but then as I've been going to more networking events in the last month or 2 months, that's everyone's so lovely. And when I tell them, I think people actually find podcasting quite refreshing. Like you speak to they've spoken to 10 people, and of those 10 people, 9 have said they do some kind of business consulting, HR, and then they suddenly have a podcast and they're like, whoa, that's a bit new. Okay, tell me more, I'm interested.
Hmm.
So people are really interested in your story and what you bring to the world. And especially if you can show that, oh, I have this plan or I have this idea, or even I'm not quite sure but I'd love to speak to new people, people are so willing to help out. And you'll be
They are.
surprised how much you can fill your LinkedIn or your Instagram with just people willing to chat and explore your ideas further. It's really good. Well, Sarah, now that we've covered that kind of intro into why someone should do networking, you obviously have this very special way of handling it. And that comes down to the pain points that you solve, right? So, could you explain to us what are the pain points of networking that your kind of frameworks and systems solve so we can then move on to them?
Yeah. So, what I think most people's frustration with networking comes from, I've done this, I've spent time almost like a gym membership. I've done the work and I'm not seeing the results, and I'm not seeing the results. And sometimes the results are clear to you but not clear to the other person, or you're not making it clear of what you're looking for. So I want to make sure that when we are out there doing this effort, because networking is part of your business plan. It is a marketing strategy, guys. And it is marketing, whether you're in business growth, whether you're exploring some things, it is a strategy. And so you have to treat it like that. And so when you're looking at things, you have to see, is the energy good in this group? Is it filling up my cup? Is there been actual opportunities or ROI that has come from my time spent here? And this isn't just going to be a once or twice situation. This takes time. Okay. It takes trial and error. It takes finding the right group of people. And networking has natural cyclical cycles. I have ridden them. There's a group that I just recently stepped away from that I ran for almost 3 years. And I love the people in this group, but it got to the point where I can't tell you when I looked back at the last 2 years, I haven't gotten one business opportunity to potential do a mortgage for them in that side of my business. And I
Mm,
felt like I was coming overly prepared with all of these great leadership and pouring into them personally and professionally. And they were just like riding on those coattails. They're like, Sarah's got it, Sarah's got it, Sarah's got it. And when I looked back, it was not because I didn't care for these people. They're beautiful humans, but there was no one else challenging me. There was nobody actually fueling my business and giving me ROI. And when that is not there anymore, it is a okay to walk away in a very professional manner and just say, thank you so much for this opportunity. I have to step away. You can go into details, you cannot, but your reputation matters most. You leave it in a really good standing, and then you go leave that opportunity for another one to find its way in. That is part of the natural cycle with networking, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but you have to give it time, and you can't commit to something, say that you are part of it, and then not show up to do anything. Nothing's
mm,
going to happen if you're not there. Nothing. It's not because your name is on a list or a billboard does it automatically build trust and revenue and opportunity. It just does not. You do that. And so you have to show up and you have to be consistent. And so that's why it's wildly important to pick groups that you look forward to, that challenge you, that are farther along in their career. And you may be this new person, and people are like, oh, they look young, and they probably are young. Well, guess what? I looked young when I started doing this, and I had been doing mortgages for over 5 years, and I was super seasoned in the of what I was doing. So I had that hurdle to get over. But when you start doing that and you start learning and growing and making these people your mentor, and you get far bigger jumps in success through networking when you do that.
mm. Yeah. With networking, it is that kind of case of uh, following up and keeping that connection going can also be difficult because it's a human skill at the end of the day. It's not, you're talking to humans. It's naturally like a communication skills are important. So following up and making sure the conversation continues is really good because in a networking event, if you've been to one, someone who's listening, it kind of is like you go in there and there'll be, depending on the size of it, let's say there'll be anything from 20 to 200 people in this event, right? It could be, the size could be really vastly different. But regardless, each person is going to continuously be conversing with someone. Usually there won't be someone sitting down because there's usually in a networking event, there's usually people placed to literally purposefully get people to talk to each other. If they notice someone sitting down, they'll go and try and hook them back into a conversation, which is really good. But what that means is that you are just person one of 20 or person one of 150 they've spoken to that day. So it's really difficult for you to expect that, oh, well, I told them my business. So I'm sure they're going to click on the link I told them, or I'm sure they're going to even look at the business card I gave them because I spent so much time on Canva designing it. It looks so pretty. So you have to put into context that you are not the only person they spoke to. But what you can do to become the person that is the most valuable to them is continuously then follow up and keep in touch with them. And again, this is not guaranteeing that if you do that, this person will become your best friend. But this person will then get a better idea of who you are and what you do than what they got in the 5 minute conversation they got with you in the networking event. And I've seen this firsthand. There's people I've met in networking events, and then I've spoken with them on Instagram. It's quite cute. Like we just exchange messages every single day on Instagram. It's not like we're on Instagram all the time because we're busy people, but they'll put something, the next day I'll see it, then the next day they'll see it. It's just very slow messaging, but at least it's consistent. And it's got to the point that now we're like, oh, actually, we do have quite a lot in common. We didn't realize, even though we spoke for about 30 seconds, and we're like, oh, let's meet up for a chat or something. So it is a consistency game, and you keep it going, and it works out. But obviously, Sarah, that's something you've kind of further excelled in because it can be difficult because again if they've spoken to 160 people then you've also spoken to 160 people just per se, so how do you yourself keep on top of it, right? And
Yes.
especially I think what's difficult is in networking, if you want to really express that relationship that you built with someone, every time going to them and saying, I forgot your name and what you do, could you remind me again? Really sends it right back to square one. Whereas if you can immediately go there and say, oh, how's that event you were doing, or how's that or something personal, like how's your family member doing. I remember we talked about your mum, whatever it is, right? It goes up to that next level where immediately you've bumped up their list of like, wow, this person is someone I like because they clearly remembered me, so I'm now going to put extra energy to remember them. But again, that's difficult. So Sarah, what's your take on that side of like the pain point of networking? Like, it's important to follow up, but also difficult to do so, and it also takes a lot of time if done incorrectly. How does someone
Mhm.
go about solving that?
Yeah, so my framework is exactly the thing that I would say if you want to have success and to avoid these hurdles that we were just talking about, because you're 100% accurate. It's called the MAP framework, MAPP, and each of these have a title for the acronym, but I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about what each of them are so that when you are going into an event, and the hard part is that we are all humans outside of that event, personally and professionally, and we never quite know what's always going on in somebody's life at that point in time. So remembering things can seem really difficult sometimes. So the first M in my map framework is mindset and intention. So a lot of people just put the networking event on their calendar. They go, they show up, they don't do a lot of preparation, they don't think about what they need out of it. They just
Mm,
go and they're like, I've either got this or I don't. Their emotions are kind of all over the place based off of the day that they had. And then they leave and they're like, I'm not sure I had any good quality conversations, or I didn't actually get my ask in, or what I actually wanted out of this. So, the first and foremost, before you go to any event, conference, even a one to one coffee, is you need to have your mindset set on what do I need out of this conversation and the intention. And a beautiful way to do that is we have a lot of tools nowadays where we can do some research on people before we see them, right? We have LinkedIn, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have websites, we have all of these things. So you can, part of the things that we'll talk about, use AI for that and to cut your prep time down so you're not spending an hour of your time pulling in lists of people and doing all of this. I'm not sure for you guys, but a lot of groups here have general websites of who is part of that organization,
mhm.
headshots, names, websites, whatever it is. You can take that list and drop it into AI before you walk in and say, who do you think would be great 5 people for me to talk to? Because I'm looking to close more business. I am looking for a new bookkeeper, an accountant, IT, or I'm just looking to meet 5 new people I've never met before. Whatever it is, you have to set up what your goal is before you walk in that room. It also makes it far easier when you're talking with somebody and people inherently want to help each other. We're there in a room, we're there doing business, we want to be able to help and support. And a lot of people don't put that ask in, and so they're like, yeah, that person was great, but I don't really know how I
Don't
can
know what
help
they want.
support
Yeah,
them. I don't know what they need. I
yeah.
don't even fully understand their business yet. So if you go in with some sort of mindset, who you're intentionally going to ideally speak to, it gives somebody a way to help you. And so it gives you your ask very clearly. And then if you want to speak to, I don't know, let's say Sandra over here, but you don't know Sandra personally and you're having a conversation with Joe over here, you can ask Joe, hey, do you know Sandra X? I'm really looking to connect with them today. Do you know if she's here yet? And leverage somebody else to make that introduction for you is a really, really cool thing. It's not perfect science, people don't show, all those things, but at least it gives you a plan before you walk into that room. I've told people to do this at conferences, right, where there's hundreds and thousands of people, vendors all over the place. And if you know that you, over these next 3 days, need to speak to these 3 people because you're looking in their tech, you're really interested in it, whatever it may be, at least you now know if you had those 3 conversations and you've got clear plans to connect with them after this, you've done the work. It's worthwhile. So, mindset and intention, huge part. And I've even done this where I've been like driving, running super late, traffic's horrible, and I'm just kind of like in a state before I walk in the door. Take 5 minutes in your car, take a few breaths, put on some music, whatever calms you down a little bit. Nobody's going to notice if you're 5 minutes late or right on time. So
Mm,
take those few minutes, take a beat, get yourself into a space of what do I need, and then walk in and then execute. So M of my MAP framework is mindset and intention. A, we talked about authenticity. I call it authentic presence. And if I could add the word curiosity in my acronym for it to make sense, I would totally do that here. But I was recently listening to a podcast where Simon Sinek was being introduced, and he just did a beautiful job of explaining what authenticity is. And it's really your values and your why. And it's really difficult for people to just let that fly on the first time when we're doing it. I am a wear it on my heart kind of sleeve kind of gal. All right. In my book I talk about this story, but I think it's important. I struggled with fertility issues of getting my little guy into this world. I still showed up through networking throughout that entire journey. I ended up having a really complicated pregnancy, and he ended up having to come early, and we did some time in the neonatal unit before he could come home. I had meals at my door for 43 nights from my community. And it wasn't because I was going out or being negative or wanting a sob story. I was still showing up at these events. I was just showing up as I was, which was not thriving in the world at that moment, I won't be honest. But
Mm.
I had built relationships with these people before and during this journey that I was in. And they were like, if this is the best that we can do is bring you a meal, we've got this. Like, we can support you through this. And so that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't able to share that little bit about me and they weren't curious enough to hear it about me. So I am not saying that you have to go at full blow about such an intimate journey, which for a lot of people, they don't love to share that kind of stuff, but you have to be willing to share a little bit about yourself so that it is an easy connector to somebody else. Sports, pickleball, coffee, you love food, books, whatever it may be, if you can start sharing those little aspects, that's what builds those really quick connections. And, ooh, we have this in common. And then, like you said on Instagram, our humor is the same. We like the logarithm is probably giving us the same things on our feeds here, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, all of that happens through authentic presence. And when you can share a little bit about yourself, you create a safety net for somebody else to share a little bit about themselves. And it becomes this reciprocal thing. And so I I know the word authenticity is getting thrown around a lot. You need to be authentic. You need to be this. We got AI doing this. To me, it means you have to share a little bit of the vulnerability of who you are, your values, and your why. Whether why you're there, whether it's why you're doing business, why you're a parent, why you're an athlete, why you're a student. I don't care what it is, but you have to be able to share it. And that's what builds that trust component far faster and weeds out the people that you know are not your people and the people that you're like, oh, yeah, we should continue this even farther.
Yeah, if I just stop you there, I actually had this in an event recently where I obviously in an event, you don't just show your weaknesses all the time because you just fatigue everyone. It's not you're not there to traumatize everyone, but you show up of like a facade of like so when someone introduces me or asks me what do I do, I'll be like, oh, I have a podcast and I run a community for for small entrepreneurs. They're like, oh, that's really cool, da, da, da. And then we're having a conversation, right? And then just in the middle of it, I just said to this person, don't you just sometimes feel like you just feel a bit clueless? Like everything we discuss has been so like had been so like perfect professional, and then the conversation got to the point where I said, sometimes I just feel a bit clueless, like I don't really know what I'm doing next. Even though I know what I'm doing now, like I know I can organize a podcast, but you don't really know the next step, like what's the next thing for me. And this person just went, oh my god, I totally agree, tell me about it. And then we just went down this completely different like path of like really sharing like not only are we like really good in our own fields, whatever it is, but we both have the same element of not really knowing what the next step is, like feeling like we're doing something, but is it the right thing? Not quite sure. Let's just put more effort in. And his reaction to my question was literally just like, "Oh my god, I am so in the same boat. I so agree with that conversation. This is so me. You get me." And there you go. And again, that's one of the people I'm like talking to more and more like daily. And yeah, so I saw that thing where if you show that authentic side, then someone else will also feel like, well, he's just expressed to me that he's clueless. So I feel safe to express that as well now. Because otherwise, if I don't do that, then we both act like we're really, really, we're so spot on. We know exactly what we're doing tomorrow. We know exactly where we'll be in 10 years' time, which no one does, right? So I totally like vibe with that idea of like be authentic. And if you are having a long conversation with someone, then maybe do start to throw in something authentic or like a weak point or like a pain point you experience, and then ask someone about it, which is really good. I had another conversation with someone else as well, or I overheard one actually. It was between marketers, and there was a marketer, like young one, talking to like some more senior ones, and she said, "What do I do as a young marketer if my boss doesn't want to listen to my marketing strategy?" Right? And these like older marketers, which are bit A in their game, they were like, they literally like took her into their wing. They were like, "Oh, just sit down, let's talk about it." And the reason I say this is because I was gonna join the circle, and then I heard them have such a deep conversation that I was like, I don't think I can anymore join this circle. They are so into this conversation, I'm not involved. So I just had to walk away. But I was like, wow, that's like, she asked that question, and they were like, have my details, just chat with me. If he doesn't want to listen to you, talk to me. I'll give you strategies. And I was like, wow, like she got what she wanted just by asking that pain point rather than just pretending to know everything. So yeah,
Well,
authenticity does work.
and I would just say, watching you describe those two scenarios, especially the first one, when you share a little bit and the other person is willing to share their vulnerability, it's almost like relief. Like, I watch your shoulders literally just drop a little bit. You can be a little bit more like yourself, and it takes risk, okay? Because not everybody is well receptive to it. And if they're not
Mm,
well receptive to it, that's okay. That's a them thing. That's not a you thing, just so as a reminder, okay? But there are people that want to help, that want to mentor, that want to lift up a younger generation and make them feel empowered in their job. But you have to be able to be vulnerable and share it. And if you can't do that, it just takes a little bit longer to make those relationships.
yeah, exactly. So continue, Sarah. What's the
Yes.
P in your map
So
framework?
the first P is precise messaging. And so I say this as not the perfect elevator pitch or 30-second pitch, which you can have in this aspect. But I really can't tell you how many times that I've heard people say what they do, even just like in the casual conversation, like we've been using the examples of your networking this past week. You have to make it clear, you have to make it concise, and you have to pretend you're talking to somebody that's like 10 years old. If you start
Mm,
using jargon that you use in your everyday world, uh, it doesn't build. I think there was a point in time in networking where that kind of stuff like built credibility, and people were like, oh, well, they must know what they're talking about because they're using all these fancy terms. I have the complete opposite. I'm like, it's taken me 10 times longer to figure out what you do because I am not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney, and I don't understand half these words that you've said, or this, quick acronym that you've used that I'm like, what does EOS stand for an
mm,
implementer? Like, you can't do any of that stuff. And that only happens with time. I encourage you to use AI for this, and you can plan out your 30-second introduction. You can plan out, like, if somebody were at an airport and ask you what you do you want it to be fun? Do you want it to be memorable? Do you want it to be humorous? Do you want it to be serious? It doesn't have to be right or wrong. It has to mirror who you are as a person and sound like who you are as a person. But you have to keep it simple and then almost open enough for somebody to say, wow, tell me more. Tell me more about this podcast that you're doing. I love that you're wanting to pour back in to, entrepreneurs and small business owners or whatever it is that you're trying to do. But you have to keep practicing. And so there's times in networking groups where I've run them and we'll work on our 30-second elevator pitch, and I'll
mm.
break it into 3 sections and I'll go everybody. And then when we're kind of dialed it in, I will make people go and give their pitch and then ask the room what they heard. And a lot of times people are like, that is not what I was going for at all.
Mm.
Or that was exactly what I was saying. Yay. We also all have cell phones, okay? You can record yourself on your cell phone in the comfort of your own home, okay? You don't have to post it anywhere. You can share it. I'm happy to give you feedback if you ever want to share it with me, but you will see how you talk. Am I using my hands a lot? Am I kind of slouched? Am I open? Am I, saying a lot or like, or do I just sound completely terrible? We're really critical of ourselves when we do video, but I will tell you, it'll give you a lot of insight as to how you look when you're delivering how you talk about your business. And until you know what you look and what other people hear, it's really, really good cues for you to make those adjustments in the future as you start talking about it. But if you are not precise on your messaging, it takes 5 times longer for somebody to understand what you do, how they can help you, and what would be good referrals for you if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a good point. Uh, I think for any single person, whatever you think you understand in your head will not be what someone else gets. It's a concept that seems too obvious, but it's not practiced enough because you have all the context you need for your life. Like you know what you're thinking for tomorrow, you know what you probably just had for lunch, even though I do forget that sometimes, and you know like tomorrow what you're gonna do, but someone else has no idea about who you are at all. And to be honest, very frankly, they'll forget about who you are, what you look like, even your name, probably even your voice by tomorrow. So, A, you don't need to put too much emphasis on the elevator pitch if someone is going to forget it so quickly. And B, if you are going to put emphasis into it, then try to put it in a way, like you said, as if you're explaining to a 10-year-old, because the person listening, they don't have the brain width at that time to be over analyzing what exactly you just said. Like if I started using really complex podcasting terms like editing and marketing, and I I do split cuts and this kind of thing, they just be like, bro,
What
what is
does
going
that
on?
mean?
What does that mean? I don't know. I'm a financial advisor. I don't know what that means. But if I just say I run a podcast and a community, they're like, okay, I can somewhat understand what this is. And it also means someone else knows how much energy to put into it. Like for example, if you have someone who hypothetically would have been like a perfect conversation for you, but they never ever understood what you were doing, then they will never be able to be the perfect conversation for you because they can only choose to give you the energy if they think what you're doing aligns with what they want to be talking about.
Hmm.
And so you have to not only provide the good elevator pitch to advertise yourself, but you also have to provide the good elevator pitch to allow other people to feel the energy to talk towards you. And that's how you're going to attract the right people. Because again, you're not going to attract everyone. Like I know from my events, if I say podcaster, some people just go, okay, not interested. I'm like, that's fine, no worries, you know. Whereas other people, they'll be like, oh, that's really interesting and refreshing to hear. I'm like, amazing, let's talk further. But if my elevator pitch was extremely bland and vague, then I wouldn't be able to get that kind of distinction of who's interested or not. Everyone would just be like, okay, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I guess I have to spend 3 minutes with you anyway, so let's just keep talking. I have no idea what if they're interested or not. And so you have to help yourself out there as well.
Yeah, I would say you kind of see the glassy eyed look when people use things and
Yeah.
they still don't understand. We as humans inherently put people in categories in our brain. I'm not saying that it's right, but it is what happens. So, you know, Sarah's a mortgage professional and a networking badass, or whatever it is that I happen to be doing at that point in time. But they're going to put you in their brain as something. So we want to make sure that it's actually accurate to what it is
Mm,
that you represent as well. And that all just comes with time and practice and how you talk about your business. How I talked about my business 15 years ago, far different about how I talk about my mortgage business today. So it only gets better with time. And you know, you hear about niching and this and that, and yes, all of that is highly encouraged in a lot of different ways. Um, but when you can really dial it in on, I'm focused on first time home buyers or veterans or business owners, that then gives somebody even more of a, okay, I've got it. Now, when I'm out talking with somebody else, that might be a good introduction for Sarah. So you have to be very specific in there. Um,
yeah.
the last one that we'll talk about from my framework, and then we're going to go into a little bit more detail on this because this is what's really, really important. So the first three things, great. The last one is purposeful follow through. We've mentioned this a few times while we started. And the purposeful follow through is where everybody kind of loses it with networking. Um,
Me included.
this is when you say you're going to do something, first and foremost, do it. Okay. If you say you're going to make an introduction to somebody, set up a proper expectation. I don't believe in that like quick 24 to 48-hour turn time. If you have the time, great, but you know your schedule. Um, so don't over promise and under deliver, right? I know that next week for me is a really, really full week. And there's probably not going to be a whole lot of networking introductions happening with my efforts. So I will say to them, hey, that introduction to so and so will be in your inbox by Friday at 5 p.m. If it comes sooner, awesome. But it needs to be in there by Friday at 5 p.m. So, one, doing what you say you're going to do is great. But that purposeful follow through is, I like this person. I think they're great. There's really strong energy, and we can really fuel each other's businesses, like really strong referral partners. They're going to get more personalized follow through or follow up from me. And it's not just throwing them on your email list and hoping you stay top of mind at this point. This is, hey, I heard this podcast and I thought of you. Give it a listen. Let me know what you think. Hey, I saw this reel, or I read this book, or whatever it is. Value adds to people, I think, have been this term again, like authenticity. It's been overused over and over. I got to be a value. I got to be a value. These things are simple. Okay. I don't have the time to read anymore with a 3-year-old in my life and multiple business owner. So I listen a lot to podcasts and I will post them online. I will send it to people. Hey, you came on my mind. Let me know what you think. Let's get a drink or coffee when you have chance in the next 3 weeks. That's the kind of stuff that people are like, oh, thank you so much for thinking of me. That was super kind. And they'll listen to it, but that's a value add and the purposeful follow through. What I think is most important is the prioritization of this. You We talk about this before where you're going out and you're talking to all these people, and how do I prioritize my time once I've talked to these people? And I think the biggest way that I can tell you, encourage you to do this, is the prioritization of how's it going to fuel you and your business first and foremost. So what we're all there to do is to make money and to grow our businesses first and foremost. So if they are somebody that can give you opportunities on a very regular basis, your energies are flowing, you would love to talk with them more, they're going to get personal reach out from you every 2 to 4 weeks. That's really, really important. I label them in my CRM system as an A. Okay, that is people I'm talking with every Friday. I set aside some time on my calendar, just like I would set aside time for prospecting. I set aside time for networking. And so on my A's, these are people that are going to get something from me every 2 weeks, every month. B's are people that, I like you, I think you're great. There may be some continuity in our business, maybe not as much as somebody that can give me something every month. So I'm maybe going to touch base with you every 3 months or quarterly. I'm still going to see you out at events, but you're going to get a personal reach out from me quarterly. C's are, you're great. Our businesses are just never really ever going to align. That's okay. I am going to still see you out in my community, but now you're probably going to get a little personalization from me every 6 to 9 months. Okay. That is how you build trust. And I can't tell you how many times that I've done this with people that I thought were never going to fuel my business. And they're like, hey, I was just talking to my neighbor and they need to buy a house. And I thought of you. I was just going to reach out. I'll make that connection. It
Mm.
has to be more than just the automated connections that happen. The personalization, the value add, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that you can't use the same podcast episode for, B's and C's as you're using for A's, right? They don't know that you're sending that podcast to 5 other people, guys. But it is the intentionality of it, it is the consistency with it. And for me, that ABC system works beautifully.
Mm.
I also have a no designation where there's no A, B, or C. There's just no designation. They do get added onto my automated email list, but it's a no for me. It means that I didn't feel it. You're still going to see them. They're just not getting any more specialness that you have to bring to the
Mm.
table. So keep that in mind. People are asked, well, why would you keep them in your system? Because they're still your network, okay? And just because you weren't feeling it at that point in time, and maybe you are completely two different humans, they are still part of your network, and you never know what that relationship could look like in the future. Maybe you caught that person on a bad day. Maybe they're just really not, they're too salesy for you, or they're, the burly gentleman that ran down podcasts when you first met them. It's like, that's probably a no for you. That's okay. He's got a stigma about podcasting. He's missing out, right? But that's for me how I prioritize and how I decide to spend my time when I'm purposely following up or following through. Um,
Mm.
Mine is simple. You can put it in any CRM system, and then you can also use AI to generate and maintain this list. Hey, you know, Tell it that you sent this podcast out, and I just have it all on an Excel spreadsheet. Just an easy tracking system. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. It doesn't need to cost you hundreds of dollars a month. But the bottom line of it is it has to be consistent and you have to stay top of mind. Because if you don't, everybody's lives keep happening and they're going to continue to happen. And you're going to kind of get lost in the wind, and it will just take longer for that revenue to come.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that concept of you have to stay top of mind because it is so true. You never know when or what you say will suddenly trigger someone to remember you in a moment where you could have made a sale or got a lead for your business or just got another potential client or customer. And yeah, it's interesting. You have to make that distinguishment, if that's even a word. You have to distinguish
Hmm.
between like networking is with humans and you're using them to potentially get more customers, but still you have to talk to them like humans. So don't go through the same process of like, I'll just AI generate an email and treat them as a statistic or a metric, because that will never work. And even more so now, like even if it worked 2 years ago, it won't do now because people are so skeptical now of anything they see. Is it like people see the the typical AI hyphen, and they're like, "Well, I'm immediately a bit skeptical. Is this really me?" I made a WhatsApp message once with someone. I was inviting them to my community, and they replied saying, "Is this AI?" And I was like, "Do I really sound like AI nowadays? What's happened to me?"
You're
And
like, what did I do?
what did I do? I don't know. So I replied very promptly, like, "This is not AI. You can trust on this guy. Don't worry about it. Like, I haven't been taken over yet." And he was like, "Oh, I have to check because apparently WhatsApp and AI integration is crazy." I was like, "Well, don't know why I've done wrong. You thought for me to be AI." Um, but yeah, so people are really, really skeptical, even when there's no need to be skeptical. So um, the reason I kind of got onto that point is obviously you do implement AI into the system, which is totally understandable. It handles so much like admin work for us. But how do you manage to find that middle ground where you are still reaching out as a human and not kind of triggering that, is this AI BS? Should I skip this button? But then also still using AI to help you. Otherwise, networking with such a big CRM can be so time consuming, right?
Absolutely. So, um, I use it in multiple ways. So one thing that we're going to give to your audience is each of the framework that we went through, I built a prompt that could be used in any AI to help
Amazing.
cut down your time to prep and follow each of these frameworks. But the best way that I could tell you to do it that I've started using, I use Chat GPT and Claude the most out of the AIs. They're just what I prefer.
Mm, mm.
I physically talk to both of them. So when I leave an event, I almost brain dump everything that I thought of, had, conversations that I had while I'm driving home or driving to the next thing. And I just say, hey, I met Linda Nelson. She is a financial advisor with so and so. This is this, but Linda also has 2 kids, a dog, loves to hike. I'm pulling out really random things here, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anything that you can think of in that 3 to 5 minute conversation or that hour coffee or drinks or whatever, I talk to my AI and say, hey, here is more information on Linda Nelson. I need this to get updated into her CRM, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, your actual CRM, whatever it is. A lot of them are integrating now.
Mm,
But then your AI now is learning how you talk and interact with people, first and foremost. So it starts sounding like you when you ask it to build drafts of emails and different things. But it also is just cutting down the time and the effort for you to go home and then put all of that stuff in. It is going to take like an hour. It
yeah,
does. It's not,
yeah.
it just is a time consuming thing. But use AI to cut it down on that stuff, and you can tell it, hey, I want to send an email to Linda in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, and in 6 weeks. She's a strong power partner for me. Can you either set me up a reminder and or draft the emails for me so that I could go in and then re bouge them up a little bit, if you may.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just copying and pasting out of AI, everybody will know and feel it. You
For sure.
cannot do that. But
Yeah.
use it as a way for it to be like your virtual assistant in the background, and as a tool. And I'm telling you guys, since I've started talking to my AI, I've started about a year ago, it the stuff it populates for me now is beyond when I first started, first and foremost. But it like when I ask it to do like the caricatures of like who you think I am based off of what I've given to you, it knocks it out of the park because it knows exactly how I talk, whether that's creepy or not, or whether that's a bad thing or not. I will just let you know that that for me has helped up the use of AI and still sounding like a human, um, tenfold. And people just don't think about that. They're like, just trying to work it all in their head. Use it as a tool to make your life easier because that's exactly what it's meant for, and it's a tool. If you're using it to do everything, you're going to get lost in the shuffle, and that trust will take a lot longer to build. But
Yeah.
that the prompts and talking to it, it only will help you and be more specific about how you bring value to others.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because AI is this wonder thing, but it's important for people like you who have found this use case for it to share that use case, because I, for one, wouldn't have thought of this. And I kind of I was talking about you to someone I met recently about a podcast episode, and they asked me, "What's your next podcast episode?" They're just curious, and I told them, "Oh, it's with this wonderful lady, and she is explaining networking, and she's got this cool ABC system and stuff." And they were like, "What? Like, how has she figured that out? Like, this seems so amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, can you see why I'm having on the podcast? Does it make sense now?" And they were like, "Yeah, I have to listen in." I was like, "Yeah, please do." But it's, within what, me just talking to someone randomly, we already found one person who could have made use of this. So it's something which you've been able to explore, find a use case, but then also make sure that it does work, like not just generating mass emails. You're finding a way to get it to create even a draft potentially, but then get it to edit that. You can edit that and make it sound human, make it sound like Sarah's talking, not like Claude. And ultimately the other person feels like they've received a tidbit from your life, and you can, as you say, stay top of mind if they ever feel like they need some help from you, which is really good. And obviously this is not something that's come immediately. Like, you've spent maybe like a year or even longer trying to iterate that process, make it
Longer.
longer. Yeah, so you've taken longer to try and iterate that process and make it work for you, and make it seamless as possible. I was really impressed with the using AI to kind of transcribe the notes. That's really impressive, because you can always, especially Claude, you can probably make like I don't know what it's called, but in Gemini they call it like gems, which it can do like a
Hmm.
specific task over and over again, right? And then if you just go into it and tell it the whole thing, it can probably populate it as if it was on the Excel sheet, and you can just copy and paste it into your Excel
And
and
that's exactly
share
what
that.
I do in that chat, whether it is, a chat, a bot, or whatever it is. I just make sure I dump it into there, and then whether I've trained it that way or whatever it is, it can pretty much make it so it can either copy and paste it into my CRM
Mm,
if there's no integration. I think we're going to get to a point where it pretty much integrates with all CRMs at some point in time. And I'm sure in another year or two, if we were to talk, some of these prompts and stuff may look a little bit different, right? May need a little bit more specificity and different things like that.
yeah.
But it's the beauty of growing, and it's the beauty of you as a business owner growing and your network growing.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Sarah, as we come to the end, I want to check, like, you very kindly offering these resources, which I will also be having a look at, because it's really important. And just to go through again, because we kind of went through the frameworks really in depth, right? To kind of summarize them, you've got your map framework, which is mindset and intention. So that's turning up before the event in the right mind frame, going there with the right intention, knowing what you want out of it, and being able to tell other people what you want out of it so they can help you in the best way possible. Authenticity and curiosity. So sharing your values in your why, making sure that you're showing your authentic self, not putting up a facade. And again, for the sake of yourself, so you don't have to feel like you're constantly putting something up out there that you're not. But then for the sake of others, let others know who you truly are so they can help you as much as they can. Because people in networking events are really helpful, but if they don't know who you are and what you want out of it, they just can't quite help you as much as you want. Then the third is precise messaging. So make sure what you're telling someone is clear, precise, as if you're talking to a 10-year-old. Don't use any specific industry jargon, whatever industry you're in, because someone else doesn't know you. A, someone else doesn't know you as good as you know yourself, and B, they're gonna forget about you as soon as possible. So you need to make sure you say something that immediately translates to what you're doing. So if they are interested, they know that they can be interested, rather than they do the whole. If you've even speak to them for 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you don't want that 5 minute stuff being them just constantly thinking, when does this guy move on? Because I have no idea what he's talking about. You want there to be some kind of conversation going on. As you said yourself, you can see the glass-eyed look in their face when they're like,
It's like,
maybe I should go for another biscuit from the biscuit stand, because this is not working for me at all. So yeah, try not to be that person that gets that response from someone. And then finally, which you went into really good detail, is purposeful follow through, which, as I said, I need to improve on myself. Like, it's so easy to go to a networking event, feel that high of like, wow, I spoke to so many amazing people, and then just don't do anything about it. And like I said, they've if you've spoken to so many other people, so have they. And so how can you expect them to remember you even in a week's time? The only way that's possible is to try and um, contact them again. And you've taken that step further with your ABC system, which is right. I have to contact them again, but maybe I should focus and prioritize my energy. So I'm not just contacting people who I know almost is not worth contacting every month. So splitting them into the ABC, and maybe it might take you a little bit of while to create the infrastructure to split into ABC, but I'm sure your resources, Sarah, go into the detail of how you create that infrastructure that works for you. But then once you've got it set up, you can just keep populating that Excel sheet and just give yourself some time every week, every 2 weeks, however you structure your life, to just kind of nurture them. The same way that if you're in a business, you nurture your leads, make sure you're top of mind. It's the same way you would nurture these kind of uh, networking friends you've made. And then that way, you not only do you keep them on, not only do you keep yourself top of mind, but then you also come across as more of a trusted person because they feel like, oh, keep getting emails from this person. And if you do share that little bit of like, oh, how's your dog doing? How's your mum doing? Oh, this is a reel I found, could be interesting for you. This is a course I found which is not really interesting to me, but I thought I'd share it to you. They're like, wow, this person cares about me, and suddenly you inadvertently become higher in their friend list, and yeah, you stay top of mind and top of their kind of energy levels. If ever you were to meet again, you can guarantee you'd get more energy from them than someone who met again but did nothing in the middle to keep on going with them, which is a really good way to explain networking, Sarah. I'm glad you were able to go through that. So I want to ask you kind of finally, for someone who does receive your resources and understands this framework, what's the next step they should take? The first thing they should do to take a good step into networking. Let's say this is someone who's scared about it. They've kind of refrained from doing it. They have their reasons. Maybe they're introverted, or they feel like they're introverted, or they don't know how to even start networking, who to network, what should they say. There's so many reasons why someone might not do it right. What's the next step someone should take after this episode to feel a bit more comfortable and get into an event, maybe talk to people?
Uh, Two things I would say. Selfishly, a plug. I just wrote a book on all of this. It's called The Intentional Networker. It's available on Amazon, paperback, hardcover, Kindle. It's not on Audible yet because I'm gonna selfishly dictate it when that comes. But The Intentional Networker is the name of the book. Think of it as me in your back pocket of more in-depth detail about what we just went over. And it goes from business card etiquette to full on, really complicated stuff with networking. So, my book, but get a buddy, guys. You don't have to do it alone, right?
Mm.
If you know that you're going to something or I'm going to something, people that are already doing it and you know that they're going to be there, it's kind of nice to tackle it together. And there's always like don't have to be together the whole time. You could split off, you could do it, but you can always come back to each other and be a little bit of a safe spot and be like, this is for the bees, or no, this is great. You should meet this person. Having a friend or a networking buddy or somebody that you know there that will help kind of break you out of your shell is a beautiful, beautiful way to do it. And if you don't have anybody yet, uh, this seems really simple, but wear a bright color, something that's a little distinguished. I've seen people with bow ties, pocket squares, socks, belt buckles, glasses. They're natural icebreakers for people to come talk to you. So
Ah,
if
nice.
you don't have that gumption and you're scared out of your mind and so much anxiety about going, make a signature little thing that's yours and wear it, and that will be something that people will be attracted to and be like, hey, I love that jacket that you have on, where did you get it? Now that conversation has just generally been broken, and it actually took no effort from you outside of what you have on.
That's really smart. And if anything, people remember you more. If you tell the other person, "Oh, I'm the guy who was wearing a shirt," they'd be like, "Yeah, everyone was wearing a shirt." But you say, "I was the person who came with the really pink fluorescent socks." If you remember, they'd be like, "Oh, I remember them. I couldn't keep my eyes off those socks." They'll remember you. So yeah, it works two ways. You'll get the conversation, and if anything, when you do your follow up as well, you can always say, "Hey, I'm Krish. I'm the guy with the pink socks," and immediately you've got a little bit of humor going there, a little bit of connection. It's like a friendly joke. So yeah, there's two parts to that. So, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. to the podcast and sharing all these insights. It's so important for young people, as I said at the beginning, who are overwhelmed and feeling like they're not in the right space for networking. And like I said, from my story with that guy, people might feel like, am I in the right place? Like, I'm only new in my journey. If I go in, surely people will just be like, who are you? You're too young. You don't have the experience or the knowledge or the know-how. So as is always with anything new, right? We always find 100 reasons to not do it, even though doing it is not that difficult. And I'm glad that you in this episode, in this last hour we've spoken, have broken that down into why it's not that difficult, why it's really important. Because if you're stuck in a rut with something, then having 10 people to talk to will always help you get out of the rut than trying to solve it all on your own. And also why you can do very simple things to make the whole process easier. And your frameworks really go through the process so nicely. And I'm sure your book will do an even better job of kind of breaking it down and really walking people through the steps taken to network and make sure it's a process that's fun rather than feeling like, oh, I'm just going to another event because hopefully I get some leads. It's more like I'm going to an event to talk to people, improve my communication skills, become more fluent with business terminology, whatever it is. It'll be more fun for you and you'll enjoy it more, because that's the whole point of this kind of thing. We're losing in the world, we're losing this human interaction more and more and more. So I really urge people to do it more and more and more. Like, it's so easy nowadays, like, oh, I'll just message people on LinkedIn, or I'll just reach out to people using AI chatbots, whatever, right? But this whole essence of like, just talk to a human face to face for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? We're losing it, and I really don't want to. So I urge people to go out there, speak to people, and just see what comes out of the conversation. I'm sure you'll get more of it.
Those relationships will go farther than anything that you can build on
Yeah,
social.
much
It
further.
just,
Yeah.
it will be. And I think we will get fatigued by the bots, the online, and we will have a shift back. Yes, it makes life a lot easier in a lot of ways, but I'm telling you, people, it's why COVID was such a struggle time for us, because we lost a lot of that
Yeah.
interconnection. I did not thrive. So, it will always be there. And so this is a beautiful way to really enhance it, work on it, and continue to make it what it is for you.